It looks like Zach Lavine to Detroit is a very, very real possibility, but there are some stipulations. Let's talk about that and more right after this. I don't need to restate my name. You just saw it on the screen. You know what you clicked on. This is Chicago Bulls Breeze. Let's just get into the video. Look, Zach Lavine in the Detroit Pistons, that conversation seems to be very real. And it only boils down to a couple of realities that I need people to wrap their minds around. Zach Lavine is probably going to go to a bottom feeding team simply because of one thing, and it's due to the new CBA, but it's all based off of, and you guessed it, money. The Detroit Pistons right now have no one that makes nearly as much as Zach Lavine makes. In fact, Zach Lavine makes twice as much as their leading salary earner on the Detroit Pistons, and that's Bojan Bogdanovic. I never pronounce his name right. So Bogey, we're gonna call him Bogey. All right. He's their highest earner. Obviously, he's not their best player. But you get what I'm saying. The Detroit Pistons are a very young team with a lot of people on rookie contracts. And guess what? That is actually that what makes them such a prime target because they have not only the cap space potentially, but they also have some of the pieces. And I've always said that you need to have a mix of young and old. If you go strictly young, expect to be sorry for a while. And guess what the Detroit Pistons have been? They just broke a record for being sorry. Now, I'm not saying that those people can't hoop. They can hoop. But again, the mix that you have there is that. And so this is ultimately what the rumor is that Zach Lavine and Detroit Pistons are in that conversation. And it all boils down to, again, money. The Chicago Bulls can do one thing that's going to help them get back to a situation where they may not have to necessarily rebuild, which is something I still don't understand why we're even fighting. For God's sake, everyone likes Kobe White. He's actually shown up. He's most improved. He's jumped dramatically. Just call it a rebuild for God's sakes. But that's not what the Bulls want to do. The Bulls want to kind of retool. Well, with Zach Lavine not going to be there, he's not even going to even play before the end of the trade deadline. And with them also about to lose DeMar DeRozan, you can expect this team to be very different, if not in the next couple of weeks, definitively in the next couple of months. And Zach Lavine going to Detroit does two things. One, Detroit can handle Zach Lavine's contract simply because they have no max players on their team. Realistically, the new CBA is like anti-warrior structuring. You're not going to be able to structure it like the Warriors and with KD, Steph, and Clay and Dre. You're not going to be able to structure another team like Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns, realistically, the way they're built, people don't understand this. They were like underneath, I believe, the second apron. But even the way that their contracts work out, those three players, like realistically, the Phoenix Suns was like, hey, we're betting it all in the next couple of years. They probably won't be able to keep that team together. They know that, and they just said skip it. And they have a new young owner in the NBA who's really trying to make a name for himself in this space. The Chicago Bulls are not that team. The Chicago Bulls do not have that owner. You all know this like I know this. Jerry ain't doing that. Michael ain't doing it. Jerry is not going to let Michael do it. Whatever the case is, the Bulls ain't doing it. So it don't even matter, right? At the end of the day, it boils down to money. The Detroit Pistons can handle the contract. They have pieces there that will fit in a young developing core that we're trying to develop here, and it just makes sense. Now, why would Detroit absolutely do it? It's because I think Detroit is trying to do whatever they can to get from underneath the moniker of just being the scum of the NBA. And you got to make a splash. Gilbert Arenas, when he talks about his contract, when he talks about how he got that max contract with the Wizards, they did the same thing in that situation. They gave Gilbert Arenas a whole lot of money, told him to go ball out, just get me away from the post-Jordan era as fast as possible. And guess what? He did exactly that. And it worked. The Detroit Pistons are in a very similar space. They paid a lot of money for a coach. They have a lot of people who are like very, very young. They have very few vets that can actually help them. Zach Lavine can go into that room, command some respect from those younger players because I don't know if you all noticed, but he's done actually put up a lot of points on some of those people's heads since they've gotten the league. And it will be something that will be easy for them to respect and build around. He will be their contemporary. He's not dramatic. He's too old. He's not old. He's 29. but you get what I'm saying. It will be a younger piece than what they have. The pieces they have as far as their vets are vets. Don't get me wrong. Not every vet has to be a star on the team to be impactful for that team, but I don't think they have those type of vets. And I think when you pair a hungry Zach Lavine, who's really still trying to make a name for himself, with these players who are really trying to come into their own as well, you could have something work out. There's not another older vet on that team right now that does exactly what Zach can do. On the Chicago Bulls, DeMar can do exactly what Zach can do, and he was still trying to remake his name. That's not a good recipe right there, and it didn't work out for us. It's not work. It's not going to work out anywhere else. But in Detroit, it could. They can handle the money. They have the right mix. I think the coach is a better coach. Despite the record, everything like that, the coach is a better coach. It's one of those things that could be a win-win for both teams. Now, do I like it? No. I don't like the fact that Zach Levine's even in any conversation to be traded to Detroit or any conversation to be traded there, period. When realistically, I feel like you could just move off DeMar, probably move off of Vooch, develop some of these other players, and you have everything you need to be. You would have Detroit. If you got rid of DeMar and you got rid of Vooch right now and just play Drummond, you have Detroit. A mostly young team with a Zach Lavine, who again they would trade for. You have Detroit. With okay, all right, that's a little too much. Alex Caruso's there, I get it, but still, you get what I'm saying. It's not that far off. It really isn't. So I get what the Bulls are trying to do, and I do think Kobe and Zach could exist. I am just like against the whole trade Zach thing. I don't think they've allowed it to work out. I don't think AK is putting the right pieces there. I just think that this is again a move all predicated off of money, and there's no other way to describe it. It makes no sense other than they want to move off of this contract and they don't want to sit there and have to deal with that. And they're not going to move off their coach, which I think is a bad move. I think the only person benefiting from this coach right now is Kobe White. That's it. I really do. And great for him. I'm not begrudging that. I'm happy that he's coming into his own. I'm happy he's developing into a great player. But that's it. That's all I get from that. But that's just me. That's my soapbox. But all in all, the conversations are real. Detroit can handle the contract. They have some pieces that the Bulls would want, young pieces that they feel like they can help, that will help get them into the next space of development. I think Billy Donovan can do good with a younger players who would probably give him the time of day. It could be a win-win, but I want to hear your thoughts. Whether it's love, whether it's hate, put it in the chat. I just want to see where everyone's at. Let's do a post check on this whole thing because at the end of the day, we're tired of it. Just trade them and keep them. But at this point, pick a side, make a decision. Let's move on. Let's actually get to the real part of what are we going to do with DeMar, which is going to be another video right after this one, and that's going to drop later today as well. So if you're seeing this, hey, I appreciate you. This is your boy Pkidd with the Winning City Breeze, Chicago Bulls Breeze channel, dedicated to all things Chicago Bulls. You're going to see me on the next one. Till next time. Peace.